Welcome to the Human Meme Podcast. I'm David Bowles, and today we're going to talk about the goldfish that never swam. In October of 2008, I sat down at a keyboard and lied to you. I did not know it was a lie, and that is the part that matters, because the most useful lies are the ones the liar believes. I wrote a short piece with a confident title, Biologically Hardwired to Wander, and I claimed that science had measured the human attention span and clocked its death at around 18 minutes. Some put it at 10, a few said 3. I offered no study, no name, no laboratory, no date. Where a citation should have stood, I dropped a link to a search engine, as if typing the phrase into a box and watching the results bloom were a kind of proof. I had a wide readership and an appetite to sound certain, which is the exact profile of a person a bad number goes looking for. This show is about the ideas that copy themselves through us, the ones we carry and hand on without inspecting them. And today's idea is a number. My new book reaches the world this week. It is called The 18-Minute Lie. And it is the biography of a statistic that was never true, followed from the hour someone forged it to the moment it convinced a civilization that it had lost its mind. I spent 2 years on it, in part because I owed the work. I helped carry the lie. You have heard the louder version of my number, the one that beat mine and traveled the world. The human attention span, it says, has fallen to 8 seconds, 1 tick shorter than a goldfish's. You have met it in a TED Talk, on a morning show, inside a slide deck built to sell you the software that will rescue the same focus the previous slide told you that you had lost. It is one of the most repeated figures of the age. Here is its single defect. There was no study, there was no goldfish, no laboratory ever set a human being beside a fish, and timed the two of them. The 8-second figure traces back to a citation that points to a citation that points, when you finally chase it to the bottom, at nothing, a number wearing the costume of science with no body underneath the clothes. The goldfish was never measured at all. Someone wrote a sentence, the sentence proved useful, and useful sentences breed. So how does a number with no papers walk into a century wearing a lab coat? It gets laundered. The figure surfaces on a page that looks official, a survey house with a serious name, and the next writer cites the page in place of the missing study. And the writer after that cites the writer. And within a few passes, the number has grown a thick coat of footnotes, not one of which touches the ground. Findability had quietly replaced verification, and no one announced the swap. A claim felt true the instant it could be found. And the laundered number was worth money. A wealth of information, Herbert Simon wrote in 1971, creates a poverty of attention. He meant it as economics. An industry heard a business plan. If attention is scarce, attention can be sold, and the surest way to sell a person, the cure, is to first persuade that person of the disease. The same engineers who auction your glance in the time it takes to blink will rent you the app that promises to hand it back. The goldfish was an invoice in a lab coat. None of this panic is new, which is the detail that ought to embarrass us most. 24 centuries ago, in Plato's Phaedrus, Socrates warned that the new technology of writing would ruin human memory and leave us with the conceit of wisdom in the place where wisdom used to sit. He was describing the book. Every generation since has gathered at the same graveside to bury the same corpse, attention, struck down this time by the newspaper, the telephone, the television, the feed. The funeral is always crowded, and the body keeps climbing out of the box. A forged number, though, is no harmless parlor trick, and here I owe you the worst of what I did with mine. I did not leave it on the page as an abstract worry about the culture. I picked it up and swung it at children. In that same certain voice, I wrote that attention deficit disorder was a convenient label, a hiding place for tired parents and ordinary minds, and I reached for a word that turns a struggling child into a monster from a cheap film. I was wrong in the way that does damage rather than the way that merely embarrasses. The condition is real, mapped across decades of developmental science. A London physician described these children to a medical audience in 1902, long before any pill existed to blame. The cruelty in those sentences was never softened by my sincerity. My certainty was the engine of the cruelty, and certainty is the thing this book exists to distrust. Let me end with the proof, and the proof is you. You have stayed with a braided argument for the better part of 8 minutes, held its threads, carried the Goldfish forgery forward into the invoice, and the invoice forward into Socrates. And you arrived here. Whatever the panic insists you can no longer do, you have just done it. A mind clipped to 8 seconds could not have followed this far, and yours did, sentence after sentence. I am 61 years old. My first paid words ran in a newspaper when I was 10, and attention has been my trade and my raw material across the whole of my working life since. I feel the pull exactly as you feel it, the phone's gravity, the itch to check, the small hourly surrenders that add up to a fractured day. No one has beaten the machine cleanly because experts built it to be unbeatable. You will lose skirmishes daily. What counts is whether you come back to your own mind the next morning and take it up again, and the morning after that, for as long as you mean to keep it. One mercy before I let you go. If you ever passed that Goldfish along, or the 18 Minutes, or any of their cousins, you carry none of the shame I carry. The number was forged to fool the careful reader, the one who would never knowingly repeat a lie, and it fooled such readers by the million. Whoever built the thing owns the fault. The rest of us are owed an apology, and I am here in part to pay it. So the next time a number finds you, one that flatters you, that leans in and whispers, "You are the last awake mind in a sleeping world," give it the single test I failed to give mine. Ask it where the study is. Make it show its papers. For the Human Meme Podcast, I'm David Bowles, wishing you a fair evening and an even tomorrow. Thanks for listening. Be a human meme.